we are so excited that we are back here, and this is wrapping up our season 4, which cannot believe it. We started this back in October on Worship is for Everyone, and just how we have seen God use this theme through so many different threads of our lives has just been truly remarkable.
It's been a challenge to me, honestly. I think I had an anticipation of how this was going to develop with us, and it's actually held me accountable in my day-to-day that I am extending everything I'm doing as a form of worship. That is God getting the glory for this? Is it pointing back to Him, or is this something that I'm kind of separating out and saying, "Oh, this is my life the way I want"? So, but we're tying it all back with some of our favorite topics that we are going to jump into today.
Today is going to have a very much a focus on marriage, parenting, ministry, life, all those things that God just really works together for the good. Welcome to the Well-Grounded Podcast. I'm Diane.
And I am Leigh Ann.
And we are two lifelong friends doing life over coffee and conversations. And we are back in the studio and just so excited to be here.
I missed you. This is so fun.
We're in close quarters today because we must have a guest in the studio. And we actually not only have one guest, we have two guests. And we're going to introduce you to them in just a minute. But we are so excited that we are back here. And this is wrapping up our season 4, which cannot believe it. We started this back in October on Worship is for Everyone, and just how we have seen God use this theme through so many different threads of our lives has just been truly remarkable.
It's been a challenge to me, honestly. I think I had an anticipation of how this was going to develop with us, and it's actually held me accountable in my day-to-day that I am extending everything I'm doing as a form of worship. That is God getting the glory for this? Is it pointing back to Him, or is this something that I'm kind of separating out and saying, "Oh, this is my life the way I want"? So, but we're tying it all back with some of our favorite topics that we are going to jump into today.
Today is going to have a very much a focus on marriage, parenting, ministry, life, all those things that God just really works together for the good because we love that.
And we've invested a lot in that. And we have we're still seeking the Lord for the payoff on that investment. Like, it's definitely all for him.
So before we, just get too far into it, let's introduce our guests. We have John and Kathryn Evans here today. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
Privileged to be here for sure.
We are so excited to bring you in on our podcast journey. And just a little bit of background, we met you guys just a few months ago, just through some different things, through our Chick-fil-A leadership and things like that. And just God has used you in great ways already in our lives. And so we're just excited. And so you're coming today too to just share just so many words of wisdom, but also to share about a ministry that you have. And what is that ministry called?
It's Voices and Choices, Inc. The voices in our lives drive the choices that we make. And really just kind of the heart behind that is to be the voice of love and encouragement in the lives of people that, honestly, that I wish I had when I was a kid. And we'll probably talk more about that as the time goes on.
For sure. Yeah. So, but before we get too into it, we are going to do our latte moment. So this is our latte moment, the last one of the season. And I will say I have probably outdone myself today. So
this is a work of art right here.
Clink, clink.
I love how you're going out on
Here.
Yes. Oh, no, there, right there.
So this is one. This
pretty.
is called a strawberry lavender macaroon latte. Okay.
This is actually the third one I've had this week.
I said, it is springtime. I need to do something really fun. And so I did say, add yourself a little macaroon if you're going to do this. But this recipe came up on the internet. Of course, this is where I always go to Google to find it. But it is by a company. I wanted to just shout out to something. It's called Snarky Tea, and it is called the Strawberry Lavender Macaroon Tea. So this is what really starts it all off, is you make it with this tea. You infuse that tea. You put it in the fridge. You get it cooled down and things. And then you build your drink by adding honey with crushed strawberries that you crush and
like a dried strawberry?
yeah, these are those dried strawberries that are called
yummy.
crunchies. So you put those in a cup, you put honey around the rim, you dip your drink, and then it's the tea, and you can use any kind of milk, I use the oat milk, and you can use an almond milk, regular milk, whatever you want. Add that to it, a little honey in the drink, and then you mix it up. And how does it taste? What do
It's
you guys
very
think?
refreshing.
Yeah, is it good?
It tastes fantastic. I don't feel qualified to drink something like this, but yeah, when
It's a peak
yeah,
drink for you.
I'm a big fan.
It's not
I
too
feel
sweet.
like my pinky needs to stick out while.
Like I would have thought with all of that, it would have been like super sweet. And even because it said add honey to the recipe. And I was like, oh, should I do it? But I'm like, I'll do the recipe because a lot of times I don't do the recipe. This time I did the recipe and I don't think it's too sweet.
No,
So
it's just fruit. It just tastes
it's
healthy
very
and
flavorful.
yummy. Is it healthy? Because I want
mean,
to
if
give
you-
it credit for that.
I mean, I don't know. Strawberries. It's
we're
got
going with it.
hibiscus in the tea.
like
It's got all
my
sorts of
protein
things.
shake.
So,
I'm
but this
ready.
is something you do have to order online. You can't get that in stores. But I said when I was looking and researching drinks, I found that, and I said, okay, this is a really good one to be very spring and flavorful and all that. I did add the cold foam on top because I know that's a favorite of yours. And so we did cold foam, and you add a
trying
little
to
bit
get
of crushed strawberries,
sponsorship. I'm
and
trying to
you're
get a
all
cold
good
foam.
to go.
I think our audience would love to hear why you sometimes are a little hesitant to follow the recipe. So let's just kind of jump off right there and let's break that down a little bit.
Yes, I think it's a good question.
Creative.
It's my creative license that I like to say. So with
absolutely.
any good recipe and a good cook, you kind of always add a little bit of this and add a little bit of that. And so you just kind of take that liberty to say, well, maybe it needs a little bit here and a little bit there. So
Which is hard to
that is my
copy.
scientific approach to it. A little bit of here and a little bit of there. It is the love.
It's hard to copy when I'm like, how much was that? It was a pinch. Yeah, it was a little. Like you just look at it and say, I'm like, what?
Yes.
Over there.
But it has been fun. And those of you who have shared your latte moments with us online, we really love seeing you guys share those drinks. So
very cool.
make sure once we post that recipe and things, share it and tell us how you like it. So
Whether
we
you've
think that's
made
a
it
lot of
or
fun.
ordered it out at a coffee shop, we don't mind. Just tag us up for either.
It's a great balance for something sweet.
There you go. Yes.
I did
And
enjoy.
the macaroon, that was my additive because that wasn't even in the recipe. And I said, but how can you have a strawberry lavender macaroon latte without a macaroon?
Actual
You gotta have the
macaroon.
macaroon.
I think you need
You're
the
authentic.
macaroon.
You're authentic. She's not
Definitely.
cutting corners here, people. So this
Very
is so
good.
fun. That was great.
Yes.
Delicious.
Great
delicious.
latte moment.
We're so glad to have y'all here. So we've just met for the first time. Diane and her husband Tim have met you guys before, but reintroduce. We just met tonight, but tell us a little bit about y'all's story. How are y'all teamed up for this new ministry era for you? Like, let's.
Yep, we're John and Kathryn Evans. We live in beautiful Geneva, Florida. We just celebrated our 29th wedding anniversary. We've got 5 kids. We're big believers in reproduction. And so our kids are 24, 22, 20, 18, and 16. So we've got a time release mechanism for creating people. Has worked out really well. And as you can tell, bless her heart. Bless her heart. I'm sure that a lot of the audience is right now thinking, bless her heart. But Kathryn, I don't know where you would go from that. But
Yeah. Well, you'll find out that I married my opposite. I do think so. He's very eloquent. He communicates really well. So I just kind of jump in on that. Our stories are very different from each other, which I
for sure.
think multiplies what God can do in our world. He reaches kids that didn't know the Lord growing up, and I get to talk to the students and the families that walked in faith all their life, grew up in church where they're more than they were anywhere else. During the week, I would say, and it's exciting to see what God can do through that opposite attraction.
Oh,
So,
yeah, we've served in full-time ministry for 25 years, a number of those opportunities being pastoral leadership. For the last 7 years, served as the family pastor at a place called Action Church in Central Florida, which is an incredible missional, life-giving church. And then in May of last year, we stepped out, or May of this year, I should say, we stepped out and launched our own nonprofit, Voices and Choices Incorporated, really with a heart toward marriage, health, and intentional parenting. And obviously we'll talk about that as our time goes on together here. But the world is relentless to pull away from the beauty and the significance of the health of a family.
Yeah.
And so we feel like it's the greatest return on investment for the remainder of our working time.
Yeah.
For sure.
And you do something else in Central Florida that's kind of a big deal.
I do.
So just maybe highlight that just a little bit.
Some of the audience might, if you've been to a UCF sporting event for the last 17 years, I have served as the hype guy, sports MC for UCF Athletics. So football, men's basketball, women's basketball, big ticket, big sporting events at UCF. I'm down on the field. I'm down on the court with a microphone, and I tell people that God has literally given me a voice on that campus. We're having a blast, and we're throwing out T-shirts and doing activations. So if there's a contest or whatever, and just have an absolute blast. But really, that's the kind of the visible piece. But behind the scenes, been able to really serve. I graduated from UCF in 2000. With a degree in interpersonal communication. Now, my wife graduated from Palm Beach Atlantic University in 1994, and that makes her sound like a cougar. But we're the exact same age.
Yeah,
We're the exact same age. I took a semester off, but I was really dropping out.
Yeah.
And then a mentor of mine
true.
said, "Hey, John, if you went back to school full time, how long would it take for you to graduate?" And I said, probably about 2 years. And he said, "Well, if you'll go, I'll pay for it." And I said,
wow.
"Let me pray about that." And the answer is yes.
Yes.
So I graduated from UCF in 2000.
awesome.
And,
Yeah.
Well, that's a sweet
Yeah.
alumni story. That makes so much sense too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I enjoyed. I was at a game this fall.
Come on.
So I'm a new.
So I feel like
Yeah.
people say to me that they're like, "Hey, maybe I'll see you at the game." I'm like, you literally will.
Will see me.
Up on the big screen. And so
I found that when we're out on a date or out in
Oh,
town,
in the area or something.
people-
Yeah.
if he's wearing his UCF flat bill,
There will be people going.
wait, I think that's the guy.
I am.
It is the guy.
It is the guy.
But he doesn't have his.
I'm a
hat on.
D-level celebrity. And
He doesn't have the hat on. They don't know. So
I get free lemonade at Chili's. And, so that's cool.
I love it.
That is bragging rights for sure.
It's really fascinating element to that, and again, we'll probably talk more about this. But when I was in high school, I literally dropped out of advanced placement English because I was terrified. I was terrified to do oral presentations in front of my 17 peers in ninth grade advanced placement English, and now. All these years later, I'm on a microphone in front of 50,000, literally 50,000 people.
I love those stories.
And God is able to do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine.
That's right.
I think that's
That's right.
awesome. And that's not something you would have said back then, "Oh, this is what I'm going to do." It's just that's where the Lord has directed
Literally
your
the
steps.
opposite, probably, of what you're feeling.
And I think that to me, that's one of the blessings of the things that I already know a little bit about you is, that how the Lord has directed your steps in your lives, and stuff. And so I know for us today, we just have a heart that as we're really thinking about how we can encourage our friends and our listeners with their walks, because like you said, John, it is discouraging because the world is out there trying to just throw everything at you night and day.
Right.
And so, your message is very optimistic and hopeful and things, but it's, you've had a path to get there. So kind of maybe share a little bit about how you guys started in ministry and what made you lead into all that.
Yeah, I want to say this, you kind of alluded to this, but apart from the church and God's word, there's nothing in our culture that points husband and wife toward each other.
Yeah.
There's not even anything that really celebrates healthy generational connections in families.
Wow.
Everything pulls away from that. And
Yeah.
so we're privileged to sit down with you ladies and talk about that this evening. And so, the calling, it's interesting. Kathryn, why don't you take a second and talk about, you graduated from high school literally about 3 miles from
Gateway High School.
Panther Pride.
My family moved to Kissimmee when I was a junior in high school.
Okay.
And I went to First Baptist Church Kissimmee.
Oh, wow.
And as a student there, was told by my youth pastor, "You're going to be a youth pastor's wife."
Oh.
And so actually, from our church in Texas, the youth the music ministry's wife had said, "You're going to be a music minister's wife." I had just grown up in church. I often joke I was born in a Baptist hospital. I graduated from a Baptist college. I ended up teaching at a Baptist school up in Orlando at First Academy.
She's about that life. She's about that Baptist
And
life.
I met my husband. We met in a single service at First Baptist Orlando. So
It's like ChristianMingle.com, but in person.
Yes.
It was a Wednesday night. I was there seeking the Lord. I was there seeking the Lord as you would at a Wednesday night service, and then this lady comes sashaying up, and next thing you know, 29 years later, praise the Lord.
There you go.
Now, I grew up in North Carolina, and Kathryn comes from just a beautifully faith-centered family. My parents were divorced before I was 2. I have no concept of what it's like to have a mom and dad same place at the same time. I've got an older brother, an older sister. The first memorial service that I ever led as a pastor was for my older sister.
Oh, wow.
Which is a beautiful story in and of itself. But growing up in North Carolina, my value was really athletics and played every sport and the whole deal. But I moved to Orlando. It was actually March the 17th, 1995. So just celebrated the 31st anniversary. When I moved to Orlando, actually to pursue a career in acting, which is kind of a fascinating element. And so, it did a stage show at Universal for a year. I was in a miniseries that filmed locally here. Called Earth to the Moon for HBO.
Yeah.
And then I started doing some stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And in the context, and this kind of speaks to the path of how God really does work in mysterious ways. But I was a part of a Christian improvisational comedy team. There were 5 of us, and we would go and do, like Chick-fil-A leadership. We would show up there. 5 of us, we would do an hour and a half of improv sketch comedy, and then someone would share their testimony, and in the context of that, felt like God had said, John, if, and it's a big if, John, if I have given you any ability to engage an audience, you want to be famous, and that will end up having been pointless.
Wow.
If, however, I have given you that ability, I want you to use that to make me famous, and so. It's funny. People come up to me and I'll share preaching or whatever, leading sessions at retreats or whatever the case may be, and people come up and say, "I feel like you missed your calling. You should." I'm like, "No, I'm actually I'm literally doing exactly what it is."
Love it.
And so we've served as a student pastor. We planted a church, and then as I shared with you, the last 7 years served as the family pastor at a place called Action Church. And really in the most respectful way, my responsibilities there, our responsibilities there were to encourage marriage health and intentional parenting, to lead engaged couples through the premarital process. And it was probably about 25% of that time we really got to focus on marriage health and intentional parenting, and then 75% of the time there were just other elements that had to be taken care of from that church staff. And so you just have to execute. And about a year and a half or so ago now, God just really challenged us and said, you love, it is a labor of love for us to serve and support in the marriage and family health space. And we said, okay, God, here we are, send us. And we wanted to flip the ratio of 75 or 80% of our time really being, focused on supporting marriage and intentional parenting. And then the other 25% is the operational, organizational, all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And so we took a 100% pay cut. Oh, praise the Lord. What's really fascinating, my wife, she's a stickler for wanting to live in a house.
And I have a car
with
air conditioning
and power.
Yeah.
And my kids.
Come on.
My kids they're absurd because they eat multiple times a day. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning. They're like, hey, I'm hungry. And I'm like, you just ate 11 hours ago. Why are you so self-absorbed?
The best mom hack that I came up with for having I've shared that we had 2 daughters and then a son, was that late night starving teenage son I've got to get creative here. And I just started scrambling eggs, and then I've heard that other moms of sons just make eggs at late. I never did that with daughters. You don't eat a late night thing of eggs, but it was the greatest thing. So it's I've got to get more X.
We can talk a little bit about our kids for sure.
Yeah.
One of my kids, a couple years ago, sorry, I just had a puberty thing happen with my brain today. A couple of years ago, my son is like, Dad, do you mind if I make myself a late night snack? It's like 10 o'clock and we're watching a college football game or something.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I make myself a snack? I said, of course. So he goes in the kitchen, comes back in, and he sits down with a salad. Oh. And I was like, what? I don't even know you. I'm thinking Cookie Crisp.
Oh, yeah.
Captain Crunch.
Yeah.
And this
Cereal.
guy's coming back with, I'm like,
Salad.
I was like, is that a Caesar?
Yeah.
Please make it a
He must. Is he the one that's the weightlifter or?
That would be him.
Was he in a training mode or something that he had to like make sure he was
He
keeping
likes
weight?
vegetables. He does just
Yeah.
lean that way.
That's such a
It's really, yes. Actually, our boys eat salads and our girls don't. So it's really kind
Yeah,
of something happened there.
Well, I think that's a great segue, to kind of talk about your children and things because, one of the things that really drew me to you guys too is that you're kind of in the season of life that we're in, with those older children, the adult children mixed in with some of the younger kids and married and not married and just all of those things. And how do you find that balance between everyone and getting together and doing all that? What
We
do
want
you
to do
find?
that well. We want to transition to the brothers and sisters in Christ with our kids as they've grown up and
I think one of the things that benefited us from the very beginning is I used to joke and say whatever ministry we were involved with got the 7-for-1 discount because I was a stay-at-home homeschool mom, the kids.
Oh, yeah.
We were at every event. We were always together and we supported each other and we were a team. So we started from the beginning developing our relationship with them.
Yeah.
And one of our rules, just even for being in our home or going out of the home, was that you have to get along with, you have to love your neighbor. Well, you know who your first neighbor is? Your bunkmate, because they've all shared rooms. Girls with the girls and boys with the boys.
Yeah,
And
sibling family life, it's like the petri dish. It's God's petri dish for understanding what healthy relationships are supposed to be. And
so it just developed a respect for our family and a respect for each other. And it was also not putting the children above this. We focused on making sure we had a date night when they were little. And we also probably at times, because we had so many, the dance teacher was like, why isn't this one and all of these classes? And I said, well, I can't get her here 5 nights a week. I have other kids.
Yeah.
And so we learned to support each other. We all worked together.
Yeah.
We all went to that dance recital. We all went to basketball. So they learned early to work together, but they learned also to respect us because some of the reason we weren't chasing our children or dragging our children everywhere we thought they needed to be was so that we could have time together.
True.
you start with that that foundation
From the very beginning.
and it informs the decisions you make about detailed things like activities.
Right.
Yeah.
So the young families, I'm just translating that. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm saying for the young families listening, you do have the option. It feels like it starts to snowball and you don't get to choose anymore and you don't get to make that, how's this going to look?
The coaches always dictate your schedule or this or that. And so
You've thought back on
so many times.
like a Wednesday night thing or whatever that was a priority for y'all or a Sunday morning. There are some things that and it's different for every family, but I love that to be able to say, we're going to start with this philosophy or this mission as a family, and it's going to inform these details.
and it really was everything for our kids from extracurricular activities to really living on mission. It was the team concept.
Yeah, I love that.
And so if one is involved, then everyone's gonna celebrate it.
Yeah.
And people whether it's and kids, we live in a very child-centric world. Very child and we're prideful, we're self-absorbed. That's just the way we're hardwired. And so what we've tried to really kind of walk our kids through is we're going to celebrate everybody's wins.
Yeah.
We're going to celebrate everybody's wins. This is the safest place under this roof. This is the safest place to have honest, sometimes hard conversations. But we don't, your mom and I don't exist to service your every whim.
Right.
We have a responsibility to love, to serve, to shepherd, to encourage, to equip. We're not going to apologize to anyone for the standards that we set. But at the same time, you guys need to understand our kids. You guys need to understand. And before they were old enough to know what the logistics were, like, hey, you guys, Mom and I love each other first, and we're not going to apologize to you guys for that. And so it's really a healthy thing. And people say, man, I can't even get my kids to come to church. How do you guys? I'm like, well, it's not about getting your kids to come to church. It's about your kids understanding the privilege of just being on mission. Being on a mission changes everything.
True. I love that.
Right.
I think also when you're explaining like that whole thing about the team concept, so often parents and in this stage of life when your kids are in multiple activities, you get splintered into different activities, different days, different times. And, you know, we've kind of drew that hard line very early on to say we're not going to do that. And it was hard because comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
And our kids grew up saying, but mom. And I was like, yeah, but no, like, and I will have to say, I mean, there were definitely heartaches with that because they were not involved in that special activity that their friends had, or they got that. And I said, well, that's just not who we are. Now, I would guess that my oldest would say that she's still, you know, she hasn't had to go to therapy over that or things. But I feel
Praise
like,
God. Praise
yes,
God.
right. Like I believe she's still okay. But I do think that they've recognized that it was a hard decision, but it was a good decision at the time. And so, I mean, it's like you said, that's a hard thing to do in this world.
And the discipling is the term.
Yep.
Like, I didn't even realize one of our oldest actually said, kind of floored us one time. And she said, did you know that other parents are not discipling their kids?
Oh,
I thought that everybody knew to do this.
Oh,
like
wow.
this is
Yeah.
that y'all make everything about this.
I love that child just assumed, unfortunately, grossly wrong, but assumed that this is because this is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like, you go and visit at other people's houses and you're like, they're not tying this back to Jesus at all. They're not like putting in any, you know, and I confess that I, out of a love for my kids, it was really hard for me to say, I will figure it out. We'll make it all happen. We'll make it all happen.
Yeah.
And I didn't, we had to find that balance.
There is a pressure there.
Because it was like, I could do it.
Yeah.
You know, I always want a good reason why we're saying no to this, right? And so to have it as I'm sharing this with our audience to make sure they understand you can predetermine this and set that in place so that is your reason.
Right.
It's there's a deeper spiritual reason for that. Mm-hmm.
So I think that starting young and early in our marriage, making this a priority helped it. Now it's easy to keep it a priority.
Yes.
We're not
Yes.
getting to know a stranger again.
True.
Right.
I love
The
that.
dynamics have changed, and it is fun to,
Yeah.
you know, all the kids are gone and they've all driven themselves to their own activities one night. We're like, this is what it's going to be like.
Now that is a lot of fun. That is a lot of fun. That is a lot of fun. But automotive insurance for 5 children, that's not.
That is not a lot of fun.
We would have a home in the Keys and a home in the mountains and a Porsche and a boat and a Harley Davidson. But
that's true.
I just got a text today about a 19-year-old boy's insurance. It's like, you got to stay on this. My husband's texting me about this today. Those loving texts about car insurance.
It's true.
Oh, rough stuff. But yeah.
Well, what do you think if you could tell your younger self, you know, or as a parent or things, what would be something that you could give yourself as advice even, you know, because I know we have a lot of listeners that are in that young stage of parenting. And so what would be something that now that you do have older kids and things, what would something that you would tell yourself?
Well, I'll start with, in the same line of thinking of the team concept, you can't coach or parent every child. Each one is an individual. And so life is a full contact sport, and you really have to understand the context clues of each individual. And then another element to, you know, with kids is that we have really subscribed to is that fair is not equal. Fair is fair.
Yeah.
And fair is you can't earn your salvation, but you definitely earn mom and dad's trust. And so and you know, part of the audience would say, well, I've got a 16-year-old and they would say, well, when my older brother was 16, he got to do X and Y and Z. And well, your older brother was much more demonstrated a lot more responsibility,
Yeah.
a lot more
The
trust.
maturity and
so
Yeah.
So a big, and people feel so guilty. Well, we let so and so do, and so we got to. No, you don't have to do.
Yeah.
What you need to do is what is healthiest for the individual.
That's
and
great.
A big element is fair is not equal. Fair is what is appropriate, what you've earned.
That's good.
Cost-wise.
Good.
Yeah.
Because your protection
Yeah.
over your kids is such a huge responsibility too.
Yes, for
so,
sure.
And we're not trying to push this one out before, to do something they're not ready to do. The next right thing, we talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
So the next right thing.
Yeah,
It's not
sure.
a full plan, but
What about you, Kathryn?
So my mind went to, as a young married, what advice I would give for being married.
Yeah.
Would to be a better communicator by listening to really hear what he's saying. I have a tendency to be so concerned about what I'm going to say that I was just listening to decide what I'm going to respond,
Yeah.
how I'm going to defend
You get
myself.
so excited to jump right on into the. I'm like, hey, come on, that's not at all where we were going.
Okay. So,
love it.
so doing that in a marriage, but then also being better about listening to the children. I think it's really important to hear what they're saying. And I know that especially our first daughter got to about that 12-year-old stage, I remember us kind of rearing up, and I felt this just feeling of coming on as I'm a firstborn daughter to my firstborn daughter. And I just literally said to her, I think this is the point where we could start yelling at each other or we could stop talking.
Oh.
But neither one of those is an option.
Yeah.
So if you'll keep sharing how you're feeling and I'll keep responding and listening,
Yeah.
then I think we'll do better. And I think if I had maybe practiced it a little bit sooner,
Yeah.
it might have been an easier transition, but
Well, I
I did
think-
recognize that early. And I did also say, just because I'm listening doesn't mean it's going to change.
Sure.
But I'm going to, at least we can
Acknowledge.
explain.
Yeah.
You got your little mini attorney. Which of these kids is the mini attorney that's lobbying their case all the time?
Yes.
So I think just the communication, the listening.
Yeah.
Be quick to listen.
Yes.
We do have 2 ears.
Yeah.
I was an elementary school teacher before, staying at home, and even was having conversation with our 18-year-old son today, and I said, I know I talk a lot, but I feel like I just need to say this now.
Yeah, right?
Is that a quote from my house? So, and he was so gracious with it. He's like, no, Mom, I want to hear.
Yeah.
But I have gotten better with the younger ones now, probably at listening a little more.
Yeah.
And I often say, you mentioned the therapist. I have told the older ones, they're probably going to pay for therapy one day for all the things that we overdid with them. And the younger ones are probably going to pay for therapy going through all the things that maybe we underdid. Because we're like,
Yeah.
I'm tired of old.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter.
Parenting and underparenting is very real.
Yes.
I think I
Yeah.
called you when your third daughter went to college and
Oh,
you
yeah.
just had the one son left at home, and I said, this is a really big, you realize, oh, we just have one.
What is this? Yes.
They're like,
Yes.
we're good. This is a lot
They're
of
like,
attention.
the microscope goes all on them and everything that they're doing because they're the only one left at home.
Grades in 5 years. Like, I was just emailing your teacher today, and I just had all this margin in my life now that's all going to you. This was such a great conversation that we need to continue this on for a part 2. So we are wrapping for today, but we want to make sure that you watch this episode and stay tuned in 2 weeks when we have the conclusion of this conversation. But for today,
Be refreshed.
be encouraged and stay well grounded.